Have you ever noticed that the loudest people in the room are usually the ones who know the least? Think about it. We have all met that one person. They read a single article online, they watch a 10-minute documentary, or they learn a couple of basic facts about a highly complex topic, and suddenly they are an absolute expert. They speak with unshakable certainty. They argue with absolute authority. Their confidence is through the roof. But then, you look at the true masters. You look at the scientists who have spent 40 years in a research lab. You look at the philosophers who have read thousands of volumes. You look at the top programmers, the engineers, and the deep thinkers of our world. And how do they speak? They use phrases like, "It depends," they say. "We are still researching that variable," or quite simply, "I don't know." Why is it that the more you actually learn, the more your confidence seems to plummet? Why does acquiring deep knowledge feel like you are slowly losing your grip on certainty? If you are currently going through a phase in your career, your studies, or your personal life, where you feel less confident today than you did a year ago, even though you've been working harder and studying more, I want you to take a deep breath. You are not failing, you are not experiencing burnout, and you are not a fraud. What you are experiencing is one of the most profound, beautiful, and terrifying paradoxes of the human mind. The more you know, the more you realize how much you do not know today. We are going to unpack the exact architecture of this mental shift. We will explore the psychological trap of fake confidence, why breaking that confidence is a mandatory stage of real human growth, and how a timeless, brilliant piece of ancient scripture reveals that losing your certainty is actually the very first step toward gaining true wisdom. To understand why knowledge destroys confidence, we have to look at how our brains process new information. In modern psychology, this phenomenon is famously known as the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Imagine human knowledge as a vast, infinite island surrounded by an endless ocean of the unknown. When you first step onto that island, when you are a complete beginner, your territory is tiny. You only know a few basic concepts. But because your island is so small, your coastline, the boundary where your knowledge touches the unknown, is also very small. You cannot see the vastness of the ocean because your view is limited. As a result, your brain tricks you. It tells you, "Wow, I understand this perfectly. There's nothing left to learn." Psychologists call the top of this peak Mount Stupid. It is the highest point of unearned, fragile confidence. It's the zone where a person has just enough knowledge to form a loud opinion, but not enough knowledge to see how wrong they are. But what happens when you keep reading? What happens when you keep studying, practicing, and diving deeper? Your island of knowledge expands. You learn the nuances. You uncover the hidden layers. You look at the history, the contradictions, and the complex variables of your field. But notice what happens as your island grows. Your coastline grows along with it. Suddenly, your boundary with the unknown expands exponentially. By learning more, you have actually increased your awareness of how much you do not understand. For every one question you answer, 10 new questions appear in its place. You look out at the horizon, and you realize that the ocean of human ignorance is completely infinite. This is the exact moment your confidence crashes. You slide down from the peak of certainty, straight into what psychologists call the valley of despair. You look at your own work and you think, "I am a fake, I don't know anything." But here is the secret. You haven't become less intelligent, you have just become aware. Your drop in confidence is not a sign of ignorance, it is the birth of accuracy. Living in that valley of despair is incredibly uncomfortable. Human beings crave certainty. We want life to be black and white. We want easy answers, neat boxes, and clear-cut solutions. Shallow knowledge gives us that comfort. It tells you exactly who the good guys and the bad guys are. It tells you exactly how to fix a complex economic problem in one simple sentence. It gives you an easy, synthetic peace of mind. Deep knowledge, however, is a chaotic storm. It forces you to sit with complexity. It shows you that two opposing things can be true at the exact same time. It reveals that the systems driving our world, whether they are economic, spiritual, psychological, or biological, are far more intricate than our fragile minds can fully grasp. This is why gaining knowledge feels like an active dismantling of your identity. It strips away your intellectual pride. When you don't know much about nutrition, dieting is simple, just stop eating sugar. But when you study biochemistry, metabolic health, genetics, and endocrinology, you realize that the human body is a highly complex web of feedback loops. Your confidence in a simple answer completely vanishes. When you don't know much about history, geopolitics are simple, our nation is right and theirs is wrong. But when you study centuries of treaties, economic shifts, cultural traumas, and human psychology, you realize that human conflict is deeply convoluted. Your loud opinions turn into quiet contemplation. The casual observer looks at this decrease in confidence and assumes it is a weakness. They think, look at that person. They are hesitating, they aren't sure of themselves. But true wisdom recognizes that hesitation for what it really is. Respect. It is respect for the truth. It is the realization that reality is simply too grand to be captured by a loud, cheap slogan. This psychological struggle with the weight of knowledge is not a modern crisis. It didn't start with university degrees or the information age. Humans have always wrestled with the illusion of certainty. 2,000 years ago, the city of Corinth was an intellectual hub. It was filled with philosophers, debaters, and scholars who prided themselves on their superior logic and advanced knowledge. People would walk through the streets arguing over high-level concepts, looking down on anyone they deemed uneducated, and right into the center of that proud intellectual playground, the Paul sent a letter. He delivered a single sentence that completely shattered their academic arrogance and provided the ultimate reality check for every thinker who would ever live. In 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 2, he wrote, "Those who think they know something do not yet know as they ought to know." Let's break down the psychology embedded in those words. Paul does not say that learning is useless. He does not attack knowledge itself. Instead, he attacks the illusion of knowing. He targets the attitude of the person who thinks they have arrived at the final, absolute answer. The phrase, "those who think they know something," describes the person standing on top of Mount Stupid. It is the fanatical beginner. It is the individual who treats their current, limited understanding as the absolute ceiling of truth. And what is Paul's verdict on that person? He says they do not yet know as they ought to know. In other words, if you're completely certain, you are fundamentally ignorant. Your very confidence is proof that you haven't looked deep enough. You don't know how to look at a subject with the humility, the scope, and the nuance that it truly deserves. True knowledge doesn't create a closed mind. It creates an open, trembling awareness of your own limitations. So, where does this leave us if knowing more destroys our confidence? Are we doomed to spend the rest of our lives trapped in the valley of despair, feeling paralyzed by our own ignorance? No, there is a final stage to this journey. Once you accept that you will never know everything, once you surrender your pride and embrace the humility that Paul is talking about, something miraculous happens. You stop climbing Mount Stupid, and you start climbing what psychologists call the slope of enlightenment. This is where true, unbreakable confidence is born. It is not the loud, aggressive confidence of the ignorant. It is the quiet, calm confidence of the seasoned veteran. It is the confidence that says, "I do not know everything. I might never fully comprehend the vastness of this world, but I am entirely comfortable with that mystery. I know how to learn. I know how to adapt. I know how to listen, how to change my mind when presented with new facts, and how to deeply respect the truth." The next time you feel a wave of self-doubt in your work, your studies, or your life path, do not view it as a step backward. View it as a badge of honor. Your decreasing confidence is proof that you are growing. It is proof that your island is expanding, and you are finally seeing the true scale of the ocean. You are trading a fake, fragile certainty for a deep, grounded humility. You are graduating from a know-it-all to a true seeker of truth. Embrace the mystery. Be comfortable with not having all the answers, because as the scriptures remind us, the moment you realize you know nothing is the exact moment you are finally ready to learn everything. Thank you for spending this time with me today. This channel is entirely dedicated to your personal growth, your mental clarity, and your spiritual journey. And I want to make sure our next message addresses the exact challenges you are facing right now. So I want to ask you directly, what is the biggest question or the biggest struggle that is in your mind right now? Is it a question about building discipline? Is it a struggle with fear, relationships, faith, or finding your true purpose? Leave your raw, honest question in the comments below. I read through them personally, and I will be selecting the most impactful question to build our next full-length video script around. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs a little reminder that their self-doubt is actually a sign of their wisdom. Stay humble, keep seeking, and I will see you in the next message.